Hey, hi guys, welcome back to the channel. And as usual, for those who are joining for the first time or attending this one of my session for the first time, this is my introduction. My name is Pranav Gandhi. I work as a trainer and consultant in data science. My total industry experience is 22 years. These are the various domains I have worked in these all 22 years or 22 plus years you can say, and these are some of my academic qualifications and certifications. And at the bottom you can see over here all my contact details, right? So my LinkedIn account is given over here, my Facebook page, my email ID, and of course my WhatsApp number and contact details, right? So today we are going to see one more interesting session wherein we are going to see actually the regression, right? The regression analysis which we have started in the last session, right? And in the last session we have seen there are various different types of regressions which we are going to learn. Okay, so the first one was linear regression, then logistic regression, then multinomial regression, ordinal regression, and then of course at the higher level there are a lot of different regressions models we can write, right? So today we will begin with our first topic as far as regression is concerned, and that is linear regression, right? So I'm naming it as episode number 2. So today's agenda will be, we will understand the theoretical concept of linear regression, we will understand the statistics and mathematics behind it, and what is it and how it works. But that all understanding theoretically we are going to do, and in the next session we will take up a case study as far as this discussion is concerned, right? So as we discussed in the last session, okay, what was the discussion we had? We had a discussion that we are into the module of regression analysis. Now this is a type of predictive analysis. So we have discussed that there are three types of analysis we can do from the data. So this is a part of predictive analysis. The other two parts will be descriptive and prescriptive analysis, right? So in regression analysis, as I have shown you, various models are there. We are into linear regression. And when we say regression analysis, or when we say there is a regression model, then we are actually trying to find out whether one variable or various variables are having a very good correlation with my output variable y. So all my x's I am going to call as input variables. We have also seen that when I am going to use, so when there is only one y and one x, then we call it as simple linear regression. Right? And when there are multiple x's available, then we call it as multiple linear regression. So let us begin with, first of all, trying to understand the basics of linear regression, right? So when we are saying that we want to write a model for any given business problem, and in that we want to go for modeling a linear regression, then of course we need to first find out what is the relationship or co-relationship between x and y. Okay, so the little bit repetition I am going to do from the our earlier video, right? So we are going to find out the relationship between x and y. To find out that relationship, what we do is we plot a scatter plot. When we plot a scatter plot between these two variables, we have taken one example in our last session. So suppose my x is weight of a person and my y is height of a person, and if I want to predict height for any given person's weight, then there has to be a correlation between these two. So with the common sense, we know that as weight increases, height of a person also increases. Almost 95% of the cases, or 99% of the cases. There will be always some exceptions. So if there is a relationship between these two variables, I can use this variable as my independent variable on which my height is depend on. So this is called my dependent variable, right? So my y variable will be always called as my output variable or dependent variable, and my x will be called as either input variable or independent variable. Now to check the relationship between this x and y, as we say, we need to plot a scatter plot. So when we plot a scatter plot, the plot will be something like this. So I can get a plot like this, 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 right? And all this indicates that there is a relationship between x and y, right? So we are going to see that. Okay, so let us decide the agenda over here. So we are going to look into the scatter diagram, then correlation analysis, confidence interval, prediction interval, then how to create the dummy variables and why to create them. And then of course we will see some examples with simple and multiple linear regression, their definitions and case studies. And of course there are some model assumptions, right? Then maybe in the third video we will discuss about this bias versus variance, what is underfitting, what is overfitting, and of course we will also see what is subset selection and one of the regression type, as we have discussed in the last session, that lasso regression, right? So this is going to be the agenda as far as linear regression is concerned. So let us first understand what is scatter diagram and what is the importance of it, why and how it will be used. So as we were looking into the example of height versus weight over here, so there can be various examples wherein when x is increasing, y is also increasing. Then I will get a plot like this. When x is increasing and y is decreasing, I will get a plot like this. When initially x is increasing, y is also increasing, and later on y tends to fall down. Okay, so these are some of the examples, okay, which denotes that there is a correlation between x and y. Or we may also get that when initially x is increasing, y was constant, but after that y started to increase. That is also a possibility. What are the examples? Here we have discussed height versus weight. Here we have discussed time versus, in the last session we have discussed this, time versus what you can say, temperature of any object. So if suppose you if you give heat to or if you have a hot metal, okay, and you stop heating that metal and you keep it aside, okay, as time progresses the temperature is going to fall down. So this is one of the example. right? And this is time. So as time progresses, my temperature is going to fall down for that metal, right? This is example of our speed versus average or mileage of a vehicle. As I go on increasing the speed, my average or mileage of vehicle also start to increase, and after a certain speed, if I overspeed it, then my mileage will starts to fall down. This is an example of that. Similar sort of example we can have in this sort of relationship. There is a possibility that initially x is increasing, y was constant, but after that, if I continue to increase x, my y will continue to increase. So if I find such type of relationship, okay, then I go for building the linear regression model. Now when it comes to linear regression model, we tend to depend upon, linear means it is actually talking about the line, okay, the line. So even this is a line, this is a line, but this is called as curvilinear. This is called as curvilinear. So there is a line, but there is a curve also, right? So there are some different equations which we use. If we found out that there is a relationship which is giving us this sort of a scatter plot. So what is the equation of a line? So mathematics comes here over equation of line. Linear algebra, right? So y equal to mx plus c is my equation of line. Now this equation of line we have used in our school days or maybe college days. That time, what were the problems we have discussed? Maybe let us take an example again for weight versus height, right? So as weight increases, height increases, suppose, correct? So for this weight, this was the height. 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 For this weight, look at that, height now tends to be remain constant. But then, so if you plot this, you will get some sort of this relationship like this. I mean, the line like this. Okay, so which denotes that if suppose I want to now here what happens, let me draw it like this so that it will be easy to understand. So it will come over here, not here, it will come over here somewhere, okay, and like that. So if I get a line like this, there is a possibility that some points may fall on different positions, may not be on line, but I will try to form a line in such a way that maximum points will be there on the line. Now where I get this line can be having an equation of sort of this. The meaning of this is here y is my height equal to my m is, I can calculate mathematically the slope of this line. Okay, so m is called as slope, y is height in this case, m is slope, x is weight, and C is, what is C? C is what we call as constant, or maybe error, or maybe the adjustment what we do, right? So if I want to write this equation, how I am writing it? Height versus M into weight plus C. And what is C? Constant means it is also called as y-intercept, which means where this line is crossing on y, so this point, okay, so this may be suppose 1 or 2, this may be, this point may be 8, this may be 10, maybe 12, maybe 15. I am just writing it hypothetically, just an assumption. So the height may be in feet, then you cannot have 15 feet, but just the scale, don't consider the scale over here. The meaning is this point, whatever the point coming on this y line, okay, this is going to be my C over here, right? So this has become my equation of line. By using this equation of line for any given weight, let us say if I want to predict for this weight, then what I will do is I will simply draw a line over here and I will try to find out where it is crossing the y, right? So for this given weight, I'm going to get, this is the value of y, so this is the height for that particular weight. And for that I'm going to use these two values which are very, very important, M and C, because height is I want to predict and weight is given to me. Now can I write this equation in this way? Y equal to C plus mx, right? So I can write it. The meaning is same for both the equations. Now this equation will be converted into a linear equation, linear regression equation in this way. Y equal to, this C is called as beta naught plus this M is called as beta 1 x, okay. So this is becoming my linear regression equation. Y equal to beta naught plus beta 1 x. So of course this is, I am talking about y hat, that is the predicted value of y. This I am talking about y hat, which means the predicted value of y, right? So the actual value if I want to calculate, then I will simply add the error component over here, which is called as epsilon, right? So this is what a linear equation or linear regression equation is all about. Now I have just explained you in one sheet, okay. We will just go and understand it once again, slowly and steadily. So let me erase all this. Let me change my color to red. So let us first understand what do we mean by scatter diagram. Okay, so scatter diagram or scatter plot provides a graphical representation of the relationship of two continuous variables. So if I have height and weight, if I have any two different measurements, something like liter and meter, maybe there is a possibility that if I have a pot like this, so how much liter will be how much centimeters or meters? Okay, so obviously as my liter increases, my measurement on meter scale is also going to increase, right? So these are some of the examples wherein what we see is we need to find out the relationship between the two continuous variables, and scatter diagram gives us that. So these are some of the examples. Okay, these are some of the examples. So this is the example when x is increasing, y is increasing. This is again one more example of when x is increasing, y is increasing. This is the example of when x is increasing, y is going down. This is also an example of x is increasing, y is going down. Then why this? What is the difference between this diagram and this diagram? In both the cases, x is increasing and y is also increasing. So the difference over here is this relationship. If you see the scatter of the diagram or the scatter of the points is very compact over here, and that is why this relationship is called as strong positive relationship. So whenever my x is increasing and y is increasing, it is first of all called as positive relationship, and depending upon the scatter of the points, it will be classified as either strong, moderate or poor relationship. Similarly, in opposite way, when x is increasing and y is decreasing, if the scatter is larger, then we call it as a moderate or poor relationship. When the scatter is compact, we call it as a very strong relationship. So whenever I plot a scatter diagram, I ask first of all 3 questions to myself. Number 1, is there a relationship? Number 2, of course, if the relationship is there, then number 2, what is the direction of the relationship? And number 3 will be, so it will be either positive direction or negative direction. Positive means as x increases, y increases. Negative means as x increases, y decreases. Right? So what is the direction of the relationship? And number 3, what is the strength of the relationship? What is the strength of relationship? So strength can be strong, moderate or poor, close to poor, something like that. You can express it in a different way, but there can be either strong relationship, in between the relationship, I mean the mediocre relationship or moderate relationship, or maybe very poor relationship, right? But then if you see, now this question you can answer by looking at the plot, whether the relationship is there or not, because there has to be some change in y when x is changing. Like in this case, when x is changing, there is some change in y. But in this particular scenario, if you see, there is not much change when x is changing, right? So this type of relationship, if you find between two variables, this is called as there is no correlation. There is no correlation. Why? Because see, look at this now. For this point of x, almost 4 points are there describing the y. Even here is the same, right? Or you can say in this way also, for this constant y, the x is varying over here. So what is important over here is, at later stage we are going to also learn, the variance is very important, right? Covariance, okay, and that covariance is also calculated by this correlation, okay, which means that when x is changing, y has to change at least with some proportion. Now, how much y is changing when x is changing, that is the question. Okay, so by simply looking at this plot, some of the person may call it as a very strong relationship, someone may call it as very moderate relationship, someone may call it as very poor relationship. Which means out of these three questions, maybe most of the guys will agree upon whether there is a relationship or not by simply looking at plot. Of course, many of the statisticians or data scientists maybe agree on the same answer. What is the direction, whether it is positive, negative, curvilinear, etc., etc. But when it comes to strength, it becomes subjective. It becomes subjective. So, to overcome this, I must need some objective measure. I must need some objective measure which will denote how much is the relationship, how strong, how moderate, how poor. Okay, to find out that, because these are subjective things, so to find out that we must need an objective measure, and that is called as correlation coefficient. That is called as correlation coefficient, which is denoted by small r. And there is simple function called COR in R or CORR in Python. These are the simple functions where I simply have to give x and y values, that's it. That is variable names, right? So with a scatter diagram, I may get the plot something like this, or this, where I may say that they are having a strong positive relationship, moderate negative relationship, moderate positive relationship, strong negative relationship, or there is no relation, or there is a curvilinear relation. Okay, because a curve formation has happened over there. Right? So these are the various types of relationship which we can get from the scatter diagram. But when we get this, do we really mean that, suppose this plot we have got, when we plotted a scatter diagram between the maybe age and I mean some people's age is there, so age column is there, which is 22, 25, 31, 35, 37, 48, etc. Such age values are there, and there is another values which are talking about maybe the price hike. In buses, so you are living, there is a data, and for a population staying in a particular city, okay, and that population data contains one variable as age and also contains one variable as price hike in buses, of course with respective time period, right? So maybe the price hike is like 20 paisa, 50 paisa, 17 paisa, 80 paise, So paise means pennies over here for those who are watching this from overseas. So when we are talking about, so this is here in India, it is called rupees and paisa. Like in US, we call it as dollar and penny. Right? So these are penny values. Right? So maybe $1 20 pennies or 1 rupee 20 paisa, something like that. Okay. And if you plot these age versus price hike for bus tickets, you get a relationship like this. Now, is there any relation with your common sense and with your domain knowledge? Do you think that is there any relation that age can form with the price hike? There is no way, right? Irrespective of ages, price hike is something, maybe the oil price hike, because of oil price maybe the price hike for buses is increased, or maybe because of less number of buses are there, that is why price hike, because the demand has increased, maybe something like that. That can have a relationship with price hike, but age of person cannot have a relationship with price hike, right? But even though with our common sense we know that there is no relationship between these two variables, if we plot them and if we get this sort of a scatter plot, that doesn't mean that my age can be my independent variable to predict the price hike. I cannot use it. I should not use it. Right? And for that, domain knowledge is extremely important. Which variables to be taken into consideration for our predictive analysis purpose. And that is why we need to be very careful, because correlation does not guarantee the causation. Correlation by itself does not imply a cause and effect relationship. This is a very important statement when it comes to finding out the relationship between the two variables and whether to use them for our regression analysis or not. Because if you use some different variables which actually in real life scenario doesn't have any impact on each other, but because the scatter plot is showing it, if I'm using that variable, then I'm making a mistake over here, right? So that is why this particular statement we have to remember always while doing the variable selection or feature selection. Right? So feature selection is a process wherein, if suppose you have 150 variables given to you, you only want to use 3 variables, but which 3 variables you will be using as y and x1, x2, x3 maybe. Okay? And which 146 variables you are going to drop. If that decision has to be done, that process is called as feature selection, and to do this we must have a domain knowledge. Right? So keep this in mind always. Alright, so let us see what is how to do the correlation analysis by using the correlation coefficient, where our discussion was, right? So it is also denoted by small r, and this is called objective measure. To find out the correlation between two variables. Now, if this correlation coefficient value is lying between, so range of the correlation coefficient is always lying between -1 to +1. This is the range. So if I give COR of age versus height in R, or CORR of age versus that is h comma height in Python, then what I will get? I will get some value, right? That value always ranges in between this -1 to +1, and this -1 to +1 range I'm going to use to define the strength of the relationship, right? So if it is greater than 0.85, if it is greater than 0.85 on both sides, whether towards -1 or towards +1, that is, I am talking about -0.85 or +0.85. okay, so if it is between 0.85 and 1, or if it is between -0.85 and -1, then we call it as it is having a very good relationship or very strong relationship. If it is between -0.85 and -0.5 or 0.85 and 0.5, then we call it as the two variables are engaged in a moderate relationship. And if it is less than 0.5, -0.5 to greater than -0.5, because you are talking about going towards 0, and plus 0.5, then we call it as the two variables are engaged in very poor relationship. So in such a scenario, we cannot go ahead and build the regression model. So there are some other techniques. If I still want to use that data and build up the relationship, then there are some techniques which are called as transformation techniques, So on this I am going to create a separate video, don't worry about it, right? So if I am having a perfect positive relationship, my small r value will be +1. If I am having a perfect negative relationship, my small r value will be -1. If there is no linear relationship, then my small r value will be 0. And obviously, if it is greater than -0.85, lesser than -0.85 and greater than 0.85, or we can also call it as absolute value of correlation coefficient. If it is greater than 0.85, then we say there is a very good relationship. If it is between 0.85 and 5, then it is moderate relationship. If it is lesser than 0.5, then it is called as very poor relationship. Now once we find out that, then we can decide upon whether to go ahead with building a linear model or not. So how this R value will be calculated? So those who are interested in formulas, for them this is the formula. If you want to note down, please pause the screen and you can note it down, right? So let us understand, after finding out the small r value, we have decided to build a linear regression model between our y and x. So that model will be written as y tilde x, and there is a function called LM, which is linear model. So in R, I will write it like this: LM y tilde my x, whatever my variable, output variable may be, weight, height, etc., age, whatever it may be, and my x will be my input variable, and just pass on the data set. That's it. So once you build this model, it internally builds this equation: y equal to beta naught plus beta 1x plus epsilon, which we have already learned on that first screen, right? Epsilon is nothing but a random variable, also called as the error term. Now what is epsilon? So if I predict my y value, I will get y hat. And what is my y? So this is going to be my actual value, and this is going to be my predicted value. and the difference between y hat and y is going to be my error term, right? So the equation represents how an independent variable is related to dependent variable, right? So how much this beta 1 means nothing but our from linear model, linear line of equation. This is M, this is C, right? So these beta naught and beta 1 are also called as parameters of the model. Beta naught and beta 1 are also called as parameters of the model. And these are the formulas to calculate beta naught and beta 1. My algorithm, when I give this command in R, it builds this equation internally and give me the y hat values, and this beta naught and beta 1 will be calculated by this model by using these formula, right? So algorithm does it all. My algorithm does it all. So once I get this beta naught and beta 1 value, what happened? Actually this linear regression model tries different beta naught values and different beta 1 values. How? Suppose these blue dots are your actual data points, talking about the relationship between your x variable, which is input variable, and y variable, which is output variable. So these dots are talking about the relationship between x and y as per the given data, which means for this value of x, there is this value for y. For this value of y, there is this value of x, that is here, somewhere here. For this value of x, there is this value of y, somewhere here, right? So what happened over here? When I write the algorithm lm y tilde x comma data, it has written that equation and tried to find out different beta values and different beta 1 values just to make sure or draw different lines over here. So for this one, this is the beta naught value, okay, and of course the slope has changed over here. It tries another line with different beta naught value and different beta 1 value. So this is the slope over here, okay. So like this, it tries lot of lines, maybe thousands or lots, a lot of combinations it tries basically, okay. And after that, it comes up with a line which is called as best fit line, which is this blue line, the line which is called as best fit line. So this is called as best fit line, not this one, this one. So what happened over here in this best fit? Why this is best fit line? Because when it tried this different line going through the, or trying to go through these dots, this is the only line which has minimum error. And what is error? Error is nothing but my actual value minus my predicted value. So if you see over here, in this case, this is going to be my actual value, which is y, and this is going to be my predicted value, which is y hat. So the difference between this is nothing but my error. So when it tries different lines going through all these dots or data points, it calculates internally which is that line which is giving me the least error, and that is why this technique is also called as ordinary least error method. So it is called as OLS method, ordinary least square, basically least square error. Why square? Because if you see, now this point is towards this side of the line and this point is towards this side of the line, which means this value of y and this value of y, there is a difference, and the line is predicting this value for this point and this value for this point. So all the predicted points are there on the line, all the predicted values are there on the line, and that is why what is happening over here, these are all errors. Okay, so whenever we do our prediction modeling, errors are always going to be there, errors are always going to be there. But while predicting all these red dots which are lying on this line, which is my best fit line, my model has used the ordinary least square error method, and it has squared the errors, because this is going to be the positive error whereas this is going to be the negative error, because this value of y is higher and this value of y, which is y hat, is lower. So this gap or this difference is always going to be positive. Now for this point, my model has predicted this point, meaning this value of y may be lying somewhere here and somewhere here. So y minus y hat, when I do, right, so it is going to give me the negative answer. Now what happens if I add all those errors to find out my best fit line? If I add all those errors to find out my best fit line, to check which line is giving me the least error, then there is a possibility that my errors are going to nullify each other because of the positive and negativeness of the calculation. And to avoid that, the model internally squares these values of errors. The model actually squares these values of errors and then sum it. So it takes the summation of all the errors square. So which one is giving me the least value for this? That is going to be my best line. Best line of fit or best fit line. There are various names to it, right? So what we have learned over here is y hat is denoted y hat is denoted for predicted value. The y is my actual value, and my actual value minus my predicted value is going to be my error, because there can be positive values and negative values. The model actually squares the error and sum it up to find out the best fit line. Now what is this y? This is predicted y, I can understand. But the question arises over here, what is this y? So this y is within my historical data. This y is with me. This y is with me in my data. So when we will take the case study, you will understand this. Okay, what is this y and what is this y hat? How the errors will be calculated? Why it is using ordinary least square method? Why it is squaring up, etc., etc. Right? Then there is, whenever we write this model, now let us come to evaluating the model. So to evaluate the model, there are a lot of different parameters will be checked. Okay, first, before writing the model, we check the small r value, which is called as correlation coefficient. right? But after writing the model, after writing this model, when I use the summary command, the summary function, okay, what I get? I get this model parameters. So I will get my beta naught value, my beta 1 value, my p value which we have learned in our hypothesis, right? Then I get r square value, I get adjusted r square value, I get f statistics, I get model p value, which is for overall model. So there are a lot of different parameters I'll get in the summary of this model. Now by watching at this summary of the model, I have to decide upon whether my model is good enough, or I need to improve upon my modeling, right? So one of the parameter of this is called as r square. So let us try to understand what is this. So we have understood what is beta naught, what is beta 1, what is p value. P value is, we have understood in hypothesis testing, okay, the significance of p value over here is whether if I use the beta naught value and beta 1 value given by this model, what is the chance, what is the probability that I may go wrong, okay, and this will be calculated again at 95% confidence interval, right? Now let us discuss about something called as r square. What is r square? So r square actually, it is also known as coefficient of determination. So first we have seen coefficient of, seen correlation coefficient. Now r square is, this is capital R, this is capital R. So this r square is also called as coefficient of determination. It represents how much percentage variation in my output or dependent variable or y, okay, is happening by how much percentage variation in my input variable, right? Which means how much percent my y is varying by any direction, by how much percentage variation if I make in x by any direction, okay. So that is given by my r square, okay. So first of all I check correlation coefficient, then I build the model, then I will also check the coefficient of determination, which is r square. Higher the r square, better my model to fit my data. So I must try for higher r square values always. So looking at the summary, I will see whether my r square value is higher or not. R square is also, r square is always between 0 and 100%, or you can say 0 and 1. So 0% or 100%, or between 0 and 1. R square is between 0.65 and 0.8 is called as moderate. So it is, the model is giving me, so my model is moderate. Basically I am having a moderate model. If my r square is lying between 0.65 and 8, and if it is greater than 0.8, then I call it as my model is having a strong correlation, or I can go ahead with the model for prediction and I can deploy the model even, right? But why we need higher r square? Why we need higher r square? Because r square is basically calculated with this formula. Okay, so this is called sum of square regression and sum of square treatment. Okay, so sum of square regression divided by sum of square treatment, if it is difficult to understand, we can, further, what you can say, dissect it into sum of square regression divided by sum of square regression plus sum of square error. And how this SSR and SST and SSE are calculated? Then these are calculated with these formulas. right? So SSR is nothing but my y hat, which means my predicted value, and my actual y. Oh, sorry, y bar. Y bar means mean of y, average of y. So if I am having this, right, and I am getting this line, so these are my predicted values on the line, right, and this is my average of y, which is this. So this y hat value minus this value, or this y hat value minus this value, square of that and summation is my sum of square regression. Measure of unexplained variation, okay, which is denoted by this SAC, will be calculated with this formula, y minus y hat, which means my actual y value, which is somewhere here maybe, and my actual y value, which is somewhere here, okay. So this value minus this value, or this value minus this value, the summation of this deduction is my unexplained variation. So there is an error, and what is SST? It is SSR plus SSC, this plus this, okay. So explained variation plus unexplained variation, which is nothing but summation of y minus y bar, summation of y, which is my actual values, and this is my y bar, okay. Summation of the square of this is going to give me the total variation in y. So if this is a confusing thing, and for those who are not interested, so mathematically I am going to create more and more videos to explain this, because every term has to be explained in detail, right? So we are just taking an overview how it happens, okay. So for this small thing I am going to create an video, don't worry about it, right? So today's agenda is just to understand how linear regression works theoretically, right? So what happens over here now? This is important thing now. What is my R square is talking about? R square is talking about R square is equal to SSR divided by SSR plus SSC. So what is SSC? SSC is my error. So if I reduce my error, how much reduction I can do it in error? Maybe I can go up to 0. So if I make this SSC as 0, so it is not there, what will happen? I will get R square equal to 1. So any model which is not having error will be having the highest R square, which is 1, and that is why we always have to try for higher R square, which means it is actually we are talking about there are less error in my models, right? Now there is something called as prediction and confidence interval as well, okay. So once I have found out the small r value between my x and y, I have decided, because the r value was maybe something like 0.88 I got, so I decided to write this model y tilde x. Now I check the summary. So I checked my beta naught values, beta 1 values, my p values, and my r square values as well. So I will also check, so if suppose my model is good, so r square is 90, that is 0.9 maybe, and this is a final model I have written and I want to deploy it now. So when I deploy the model, okay, my predictions by that model will have two different types of intervals. One is called as prediction interval and one is called as confidence interval. And these are the types of confidence interval which are used for predictions in regression and other linear models. So what is the definition of prediction interval? It represents a range that a single new observation is likely to fall given specified settings of predictors. It represents a range that a single new observation is likely to fall given specified settings of the predictors. Right? So my predictors means my predictors are nothing but my x, right? My x, x2, x3 for multiple linear regression. Okay, but then predictor अगर है सिर्फ only one x is there, okay, then it is we are talking about the specified settings of predictors. Okay, and confidence interval of the prediction, that is whatever my output predictions I am going to do, okay, that is called as that will be having a confidence interval, okay, which represents a range that mean response is likely to fall given specified settings of predictors. Which means if suppose I want to predict the salary of a person given his years of experience, age, qualification, earlier promotions, whatever he had, and maybe in which city he is living, and so on. So there are a lot of x values are available, and from these x values I want to predict this salary. Now when I am predicting the salary by using the historical data, okay, I can have two different values or two different ranges, right? So one range is talking about, so suppose this is if suppose I am writing it like this, okay, if I am plotting it like this, okay, so let us talk about simple linear regression only, okay, and I am plotting the salary prediction versus maybe the years of experience, okay, so this is years of experience and this is salary. So with with again the common sense, as we know, as the experience increases, salary tends to increase, right? And we have found out that this is the line which we have got from our historical data. This is the best fit line. So my model is ready. Now I want to try and predict the values for any given experience. Suppose I want to predict it for this one. So this is maybe 18 years of experience. So definitely this is going to be my salary. This is my predicted value. But as we know that we cannot predict a single value, so we have to predict the intervals, right? So what I will say, I will do, my model will do is, I will ask my model to give me 95% confidence interval for this salary. So it will come up with, suppose, this interval. So this is the range with 95% confidence interval that the 18 years experienced person may get between this. So maybe this is 45k, 1.45k, let us say, okay, and this is 1.25k, and what is the spot value over here? It is 1.35k. So my model is giving my predicted value is 1.35. If I use the confidence interval, then this predicted value at 95% confidence interval may fall within this range. And when I am talking about the prediction interval, so this interval will be always the larger, like this, right? So for any given value of years of experience, okay, my mean response for, we are talking about mean responses for the population parameter. Actually it is always talking about the population parameter, right? So in this one line we can conclude the prediction interval is always wider than the corresponding confidence interval because of the added uncertainty involved in predicting a single response versus the mean response. So what I am trying to find out is what can be the average salary for that particular person with 95% confidence, right? So I will always get two ranges. One range will be wider, that range is called as prediction interval, and this is called as confidence interval. The confidence interval will be always narrower than my prediction interval, right? So these are some of the terminology we can when we take a case study, some of the concepts, if they are not clear, we can have a better clarity on them, right? So that's it for the today's session. So in next session we are going to see a case study of simple linear regression. We will understand first what is simple linear regression, and we will take a case study on that, and in that we will see all these terminologies again. What is prediction, what is confidence interval, what is R square, what is small r, what is beta naught, what is beta 1, then what is epsilon, what is y, what is the difference between y and y hat, and then how to plot scatter plot and how we get different scatter plot with different variables, etc, etc. So all whatever we have discussed today, okay, we started our discussion with why to use linear regression, when to use linear regression. So before going ahead with the linear regression model, we plot scatter diagram to check the relationship between the two variables, and then we start doing our correlation analysis by checking the small r value, that is the objective measure, also called as correlation coefficient. Okay, this is the formula for small r value calculation. And then once the r value is significant, then we go ahead and build a model. So when we build a model, my model uses different beta and beta 1 values to plot different lines, right? And this is how the beta naught and beta 1 values will be calculated. And once the different lines plotted internally, it chooses the best fit line which is giving the least square error, right? And once the model is ready, what are the different parameters we check? We check our R square value, P value, beta naught, beta 1 values, and there are some other parameters we normally check when the model is ready. Or if we want to improve upon our modeling, we tend to find out different ways by analyzing these parameters, right? So we have seen what is R square, that is correlation of determination, and we have also seen what is prediction and confidence interval, right? So that's it for the day. If you have liked the video, so please hit the like button on YouTube channel, and if you are new to my channel, please do subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon so that whatever new videos I am making, you will be getting the notification for them, and so that you will not miss any learning video whichever I am publishing. And of course in the description of this video I am going to give the details of my other mediums wherein you can use them and stay connected with me, like my LinkedIn details, LinkedIn account details, my Facebook page details, right? My Facebook page is also having my contact details and all. So those who have not liked the Facebook page can like it. Those who have not connected with me through LinkedIn can connect me. And wish you the best luck. Bye bye, see you, take care. And of course, give me your feedbacks and suggestions.